Okay, we're just waiting for some more folks to join us from the waiting room really quickly.
2 months within the incubation.
All right, so my name is Christopher Ryan. I'm an admissions advisor at Stony Brook University. First and foremost, thank you for joining us today. We are kicking off our summer workshop series. We'll put a reminder in at the end of this, but we're going to have a workshop every week. The next one is going to be on Wednesday, and we'll drop a link in the chat for that as well. Title of our event today is What Do You Wish You Knew When You Were Applying to Colleges and Universities? So we're really going to get into the college search and exploration process, and then really a matter of finding your fit. So we're going to do a short presentation, and then we're going to have a nice Q&A session, keep it a little bit more conversational. So before we do that, I want to introduce the students. We're going to kick off with Brianna, and then Isaiah and Ryan. If you could share the year that you're in, the major that you're pursuing, and where you're from, that would be great.
All right, awesome. My name is Brianna. I am a junior. I'm finishing up my junior year at Stony Brook University. My major is human evolutionary biology, and I have a minor in Spanish, and I'm from Westchester, New York.
Hello, my name is Isaiah. I'm a senior graduating this year. I'm a psychology and sociology double major, and I'm from Queens, New York.
Okay, my name is Ryan. I am currently a third-year student going to my fourth year, so my senior year. So class of 2021, and I'm currently majoring in biomedical engineering and minoring in business management, and I am from Staten Island, New York.
All right, thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of exciting questions, and I'm really looking forward to that part of this event. So, we have, I believe, 3 of my colleagues in the chat who are going to be taking questions. That's open now. We will get to them, and as many as possible. But first, we're going to dive into a short presentation. So I do have a couple ideas to share in terms of the breakout here. So we're going to jump right in, get the slides moving. All right, so here we have an overview of Stony Brook University campus. We're on the North Shore of Long Island. We're about 60 miles east of New York City. And I really want to bring this up because location is going to be a big piece for where you decide to attend school. If you could paint your own ideal college campus, what would that really look like? Location is going to be a big part of that. Think about what it would have, what it wouldn't have, if there are any deal breakers. Bringing this into the college search process is going to help you craft your ideas about where you're going to attend. And so, keep in mind, this is a really exciting time, and it is a big decision in your life. So don't think about it as work. This is something you should be really passionate about. You need to envision yourself in 4 years there. So there are going to be some, if you're willing to go about 200 miles, let's say, away from home in one direction, you should also be looking in the other directions. See what's available in the kind of bubble that you're creating. Additionally, the campus photo that we have here is really going to tell you a little bit about our size. Technically, we're learning environment on campus, so things do thin out as you progress in your degree, and most of our classes are going to be less than 50 students. So definitely think about the size, think about the location. This is going to really narrow down the schools that you should be interested in your college search process. And, another big point really is what kind of academics are available. So at Stony Brook University, we have about 200 academic programs. Maybe you know what you want to study up front, and that's great, but a lot of people will pivot or change courses as well. So think about the breadth and latitude that you want to explore in the curriculum. With the Stony Brook curriculum, you're going to be able to explore different areas outside of your major as well. Speaking to the research, internships, and study abroad opportunities, we have what's called the EXP Plus credit. So every student has to satisfy that requirement before graduation. A lot of our students are doing more than one of those opportunities, so we want to see students get involved as well. Rounding out the list in the lower left-hand corner, you really want to think about the campus culture. So what is the role of athletics? Is that going to be a big piece for your school spirit? At Stony Brook, we have Division I athletics as 18 different teams. So there are plenty of ways to get involved as a fan or on the field, including club and intramural sports. Think about what's going to be most important to you in the community. So how about diversity? Is diversity going to be a big thing for you? Do you want to expand your horizons by, being introduced to different cultures and experiences? Or are you looking for something that's more consistent with what you know? These are all going to help you prioritize what you're looking for in your college search process. And Stony Brook really is a diverse campus. We're the 9th most diverse campus in the United States. Rounding out the ideas on this slide, the co-curricular activities, those are things that you're going to be doing outside of the classroom to complement the academic pieces, and then the clubs and organizations. So Stony Brook offers about 400 different clubs and organizations, ranging from Harry Potter and a Quidditch club, there's Ultimate Frisbee, there's belly dancing, there's a club for cat lovers. So you name it, I really do feel like there's something for everyone at Stony Brook. And so, once you have a few ideas about where you're headed in terms of your college search process and what you're looking for, I want to lean on the idea of support. So you want to look for the helpers. Who's in your corner that can really help you make these decisions? At the end of the day, you have to remember that this is your decision and you have to own it. So I always like to, lean on your parents and your guardians and your school counselors. Please consider us at Stony Brook a big resource for you, but you have to be the one leading the charge. So don't be afraid to take that initiative. And so, once you do narrow down the list of criteria that you're looking for, you may want to look into the admissions requirements as well. We're going to share a little bit later about Stony Brook's application process and what we're looking for. But you're going to use each piece of the application to tell your story. So if you're thinking about applying to a specific program, you want to look at maybe minimum subject requirements. For example, at Stony Brook, our STEM majors, you need at least pre-calculus. And in some cases, for engineering, you need calculus or higher. So definitely keep those specific major interests in mind as well. And then really the role of the campus visit is going to be critical too. So you have to make the right decision for yourself. There's really no better way to do that than to go to the campus, immerse yourself in that environment, and then see if you could visualize yourself there for 4 years. All right, so with the application types, there are 3 main things that you want to consider: early action, early decision, and rolling decision, or excuse me, regular decision or rolling admissions. The early action is non-binding, but there are a couple different deadlines that you want to consider. There's early action 1 and early action 2. It's just a matter of the timeline that's different. And then the early decision, that's the one that is binding. So you can only apply to one school early decision. And if you're admitted, you're expected to go there. And more importantly, you have to withdraw all your apps to your other schools. So keep that in mind. And really the only thing that exonerates the contractual decision is an unrealistic financial aid package. So while we want finances to be a part of the conversation, we don't believe that it should be driving the full decision. So balance that out with your other interests and what your priorities are as a student. And then lastly, with the regular decision, that's where Stony Brook has our priority deadline in January. So we always say it's better to submit earlier than later. Let's say after our January 15th deadline, a certain program reaches capacity, we may not be considering applications for that anymore. So get it in before in the beginning of your senior year, before it switches over to January. Okay, so here we kind of have a timeline for your senior year. Before I get into that, I do want to take a moment to say things that you could be working on freshman through senior year. Of course, you want to take care of your studies and your grades. We want you to challenge yourself accordingly, and we understand that there are different opportunities between districts. So take what you can, focus on your studies. We love to see positive grade trends, and challenge yourself. If there are APs or honors or any other college level credit available, that's always great to see. Moving into really junior year, this is where you're going to really begin your college search process. We mentioned focusing on fit, so your location, your interests, your majors, costs and scholarships and things, finding an institution that fits your profile, your needs and your wants. So make sure you have that list going into junior year. That way you can start feeling out, early processes and see what's right for you. Junior year and senior year, you're also going to be taking your standardized tests as well, so prepare for those. We understand that with the COVID-19 pandemic, things are a little bit up in the air right now, but hopefully the College Board will have more information on that soon. And then, of course, senior year, we're beginning that timeline in August. We want to be aware of the deadlines that we're on regarding the ED, EA, or regular decision. We want to think about our college essay and the letters of recommendation. So this will get into a little bit of focusing what you're focusing on in the beginning of senior year. As far as the letter of recommendation goes, it's not a bad idea to give the writers some talking points. So of course they've, hopefully have a good idea of who you are, but maybe they don't know all of your motivations and things that you're interested in. So it's always good to give them a couple pieces to talk about. With the college essay as well, that's a big piece for you to tell your story. It gives you a glimpse of who you are. As a writer and a journalist, before I started working in higher ed, some of the best advice that I've gotten was to be honest about your conflicts and also to read your work aloud. This will really allow you to explore your voice and pick apart those awkward phrases maybe where you could, fine tune some of those moments in the revision process. Of course, the English teachers there are going to be very helpful in your corner, or maybe you have an older brother or a sibling to help you out with that as well. Okay, and then moving into November, December, we're really looking at tidying up the application process. We have, deadlines to be considerate of. You always want to check your email. I know that schools are going to be sending you marketing materials and things like, hey, check us out. But there's also going to be some important communications about your application. So be sure to keep an eye on that. Make sure nothing's going to spam. I know that we have a second round of reviews for honors programs, so maybe you need to submit some supplements for that. Please keep an eye on your email, and then continue your scholarship search as well. Okay, so here's a little bit about our admissions criteria. We are still finalizing the fall 2020 numbers for the incoming class, so this is last year's data. Typically, we like to see a 1250 to a 1420 range on the SAT. It's going to go a little bit higher and lower in some areas depending on the discipline. For example, the College of Engineering and Applied Sciences is a little bit more competitive than the general application piece. So I would say you want to shoot for about a 1300 plus on that, at least a 700 on the mathematics section for the SAT as well. Moving over to the ACT though, we're looking at a 26 to a 32 composite score and then a 91 to a 97 on the high school GPA. On the right-hand side, we have a little bit about our diversity here. In the last incoming class, we had 36 states and 31 countries represented, and then the race and ethnicity breakdown is there for you as well. So usually we're coming in at about 37,000 applications, and we're looking at about 3,300 students every year who are joining Stony Brook community. So there is a lot happening at Stony Brook. This is really just the tip of the iceberg. One of our mantras really is that affordable excellence piece. Being a public university in New York, we do have that New York State tuition rate for residents and then the non-resident piece. It is important to note though, with scholarship opportunities, we have ones that go up to full tuition. So the merit-based scholarships are going to be considered automatically when you complete an application. And then of course you have your FAFSA and possibly New York State TAP, which is the tuition assistance program. With those final two pieces, you're really looking at grant opportunities and gift aid, which is money that you don't have to pay back. And then there might be loan opportunities and then also federal work study. Those are all going to be based on your EFC, or expected family contribution, and your financial values. So work with our financial aid office when it comes time. That typically opens around October, the FAFSA every year, and they use prior year taxation. Okay, so I'll give you folks a minute just to jot down if you have any more questions for us. We do have that enroll at Stony Brook email address for you, and then you can also text us. With the way of the world right now, we are building out new opportunities for us to connect. We have virtual appointments available. I'm on that list, so if you wanted to meet one-on-one, we could do a phone or video conference through Google Hangouts. And then our website, we also have a live chat function. Click on that or scan that barcode too, and we'll definitely connect with you. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to ask Ryan, Brianna, and Isaiah to join me back on the video feed, and we're going to enter the more conversational chat piece now. So I hope you have some good questions to ask. I'm going to be taking a look now as well to see what you're saying in the comments. All right, so one of the questions we have is, how do I apply to a pre-professional track such as pre-med or pre-dental on the application? So I'm going to field this one, and then hopefully we can get some of your student perspectives in here as well. With any kind of pre-advising opportunity, this is going to be a tracking and a destination. So it's not a major or something you're going to declare on your application. It's something that you really want to work with in our community to make sure you're checking all your boxes in your undergrad studies. So, things like prerequisites, preparing for certain testing, depending on the track that you're in, and then what kind of experiential learning opportunities can you pursue at Stony Brook in order to, make your application a higher priority. Okay. For our students, on the panel, have any of you switched majors while you were here?
I had about 4 different majors before finally deciding on psychology. From taking different classes and just being active on campus and doing and working in like lab environments and working as a resident assistant and working with students in general, it kind of inspired me to go towards a helping profession. And so with that, I had psychology in mind, and I don't regret it.
Okay, cool. So the question was, is it difficult to switch majors at SBU? So could you talk about what your
Oh,
experience was like with that?
yeah, it depends on your major. For me, my majors were in the College of Arts and Science. So with that, there's really not a lot of prerequisites that you have to meet as long as you meet with an advisor with the department that you're interested in. They give you information about the major. They let you know if you've already met any of the requirements for the classes that you have to take. And then they sign a document that you take over to the registrar's office, and they can approve the major change. So it's pretty easy. It takes about like 48 hours to go into effect.
That's great. Thank you. One thing too, from like an admissions perspective, I mentioned that there are some restricted majors. So those you have to apply directly into. That's going to be things like engineering, computer science, and applied mathematics. If you don't apply into one of those majors, you will not be studying it at Stony Brook. So please be sure to do that. And then, just another piece about switching majors, as long as it's not a restricted major, typically there is movement allowed from one major to the other. So you'll want to work with your advisors on that, as Isaiah was saying. Okay, so we have, what's the difference between Bachelor of Science and a Bachelor of Arts? So as a general guideline, a BA degree, you need 90 credits in liberal arts, and a BS degree, you need 60 credits in liberal arts. So typically the science degrees have a little bit more of a concentration in the major. I believe our bio program is somewhere around 80 or so credits for the BS, maybe 85. So you can go to our website, stonybrook.edu, use the magnifying glass in the upper right-hand corner, and then you can break down the different degree requirements side by side to see exactly what they are. Okay, this is a great question. What was the process from transitioning? What was your process from transitioning from high school culture to college culture? Were you excited or were you nervous?
Okay, I'll answer that one. Um, Honestly, it's really exciting, but there's no doubt, you're gonna be a little bit nervous about the switch. For the most part, most of us are coming from smaller or, large.
Oh, I think Brianna frozen on your screen, Ryan and Isaiah? Okay. Hopefully she comes back in a moment. Hey, Brianna, we lost you there for a moment. Can you
Okay,
start
my
over?
bad. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so like I said, a lot of us are coming from high schools, and we could be switching over to a large campus. So the thing that I found that helped me with this process was making sure that I made the campus smaller for myself, and I did that by joining different clubs and activities. So within clubs and activities, you'll get to meet other students who have the same interest as you, and yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I went to a really small high school on Long Island. I think I graduated with 96 students in total. I ended up going to a school that had about 16,000 undergrads. So for me personally, it was a big adjustment. I was really excited though at the time. This was about 10 years ago. It's really, I think it depends on who you are, but I was really excited to explore a new environment. Ryan and Isaiah, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I could add on something to that. Um, so I think that one of the things, like that transition from high school to college could sometimes be a little bit intimidating, especially sometimes you're coming from smaller to a much larger scale institution. For example, I don't think a high school has a graduating class of 3,000 students. And I think that for me, I think the great transition is it's just to get a solid foundation and a solid footing early on in the process. And for me, how I did was I was able to connect really well with, for example, with my peers, as well as future, who I would call with colleagues too, especially since orientation since orientation part one, which is sometime over the summer, where also, what happened is that we have like roundtable discussions with like an orientation leader that serves like a mentor for a group to ease our transition to Stony Brook. And just from that, I found a a small niche of a really close niche, like a really close group of friends. And it's also one of the motivating factors as to why I became an orientation leader. And eventually, I remember coincidentally, one of my orientation leader lived down the hall from me, especially when I moved into Stony Brook, because I live on campus, and just like Isaiah, I'm also a resident assistant. I lived on campus for all 3 years, and I've been a resident assistant for 2 years. I think it's just having like that solid foundation, having like a mentor by your side, which even though my mentors graduated, because I have a mentor my freshman year who was a senior at that point. He was able to guide me and show me around. So I think as what Brianna said, in order to like be involved as well as having like mentorship, I think that's what helped me transition from high school to college.
Thank you, Ryan. Isaiah, you want to move on to the next question, or you have any sage advice to share on your transition?
Um, for me, I'm part of the Educational Opportunity Program, which is a program in New York State that helps students who are from low-income families. So being part of the program, I had to attend a 5-week summer program here at Stony Brook, and that really helped with my transition because it was me and 220 other students going through the same thing. And along with that, I had really supportive RAs and resident assistants and teaching assistants and counselors over the summer who really made the transition feel kind of seamless.
Nice. Thank you. Yeah, what I recognize in all of your answers is just this element of like finding your kind of spot in the community and like connecting with people. So that's great to hear. Thank you. All right, so next question we have is, does SBU give athletic scholarships? So I'll take this one. We do have athletic scholarships. It does depend sport to sport what they are. The best piece, because they are separated from admissions a little bit, is to go to stonybrookathletics.com. They have all the sports listed there. They have the coaches' information and then also the recruitment process. So there's different compliance and NCAA regulations, but we do offer athletic scholarships. To my knowledge, which is shallow compared to their expertise, you really want to connect with us at around junior year. I think senior year might be a little too late. I do default to their process, though. There may be walk-on opportunities. I just don't know. Scholarships, I think, need to be determined a little bit ahead of time. So I would say junior year is a good time to reach out about recruitment. Okay. Ryan, what was your majors again?
I am majoring in biomedical engineering in the College of Engineering and Applied Sciences.
And you have a minor as well?
Yes, business management from the College of Business.
Okay, so perfect. We have a question. It says, can you major in chemical engineering and minor in business? So would you speak a little bit about your experience?
Sure. So from my experience, what I did was I knew that when I was first applying to colleges, I think I have an interest in a lot of fields, whether it may be the biology, the engineering side, the mathematical side, and even the business side. So I think for me, when I applied to colleges, there was kind of like a mix of different disciplines that I was interested in. But coming to Stony Brook, I know that they have a pretty reputable biomedical engineering program that integrates my love for a lot of the fields, especially just through biomedical engineering. And then eventually, I think that after the first semester, I was able to see how my schedule for the remainder of my 7 semesters at that point will go, because after the first semester, you know around like what classes you have to take, what other classes, like you start planning for what your future engineering classes would be like. And then my second semester at Stony Brook, what I did was it was a very simple way, which was to add on a minor. And I know some people who add on a double major, where especially in College of Engineering and Applied Sciences, I know a lot of people double major in the engineering discipline as well as applied mathematics and statistics because of the sheer amount of mathematical overlap.
Thank you. Isaiah, what was your experience like as a double major as well? Did you find it like the rigor was elevated, or was there overlap, or?
For me, so part of the reason why I wanted to do psychology was I wanted a mix of science classes, because I've always been interested in bio and just how the brain works. So psychology is a good mix between biology and linguistics, languages, humanities. I got a really good balance of it. At Stony Brook, because the psychology program offers a BA and a BS, I chose the BA. So as part of the BA requirements, I needed to have another major and a minor or a concentration. So I ended up choosing sociology, which just increased the balance that I liked between humanities and social sciences. And then in my psych classes, I got to take a lot of neuroscience and cognitive science classes that were really interesting. So it's been nice because they complement each other, and I feel like I'm getting the best of both worlds.
Yeah, there does seem like there's this natural marriage between psychology and sociology. They definitely go hand in hand together. Um, we do have a quick follow-up question about job opportunities with in psychology. So Isaiah is actually going to be graduating tomorrow. So congratulations. Um, could you speak about maybe some of your career interests, or if you worked with the Career Center and seeing, what opportunities are available in the field of grad school?
So, psychology, it's one of those degrees where, okay, first I want to say what degree you get doesn't necessarily determine the jobs that you can get. Jobs you can get definitely require skills, and you can gain skills through work experience or volunteering, not just through taking classes. Um, with psychology specifically, I'm really interested in mental health counseling. So next year I'll be starting my master's in social work. So I can become a clinical social worker, and I plan to work in a school as a school social worker. But psychology, if you want to go into counseling, you have to get a degree, a master's degree or higher. Um, there's a lot you can do with the bachelor's, but unfortunately, I feel like a lot of people who major in psych are either like interested in going into medicine or counseling. You definitely need to a master's for that.
Yeah, I think the psych degree is very flexible, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then depending on how you want to help people or engage with the world, yeah, higher education beyond that in a master's program is probably a good idea. Um, so I just want to kind of pan out a little bit about the job opportunities, and I believe our last alumni survey we had about 94% of graduates who are employed or seeking another degree, higher education, within 6 months of graduating from Stony Brook. So we really, want to prepare students for, a better tomorrow and, create self-advocacy in their future. The Career Center is a big piece of that. Of course, we have internship opportunities to help prepare you for the work life afterward. Some of them are going to be, networking opportunities for you, where we have employers come on campus, and then, you're connecting with specific industries. Some of them might be more general. But our philosophy really is anything from Montauk to Manhattan. We have our own train station on campus, so it is easy to get in and out, and Stony Brook is a great launching off point for that. Okay. Going more toward the student life and student experience, um, I'll take a quick bit at this question. Is there an ice hockey team? Yes, we have a club hockey team, club ice team. It's not an official D1 sport at Stony Brook, but they play very competitively. I believe last year they were ranked 13th in the nation, and they got knocked out in the playoffs against Iowa State. So they played those in Texas last year. It's actually my favorite team on campus. But more generally, the student asks, how do you get involved in clubs and activities on campus? So I'll leave that up for you three.
So during the first like 3 weeks or so, there's a bunch of fairs that happen on campus. Um, so like the first 3 weeks, there are student involvement fairs. Um, there's about 400 or so clubs on campus. So over the course of 3 weeks, the academic mall outside, it's filled with clubs and organizations just tabling. There are dance groups performing. There's just so many different groups, and there's a lot going on. There's a directory that lets you know where everyone is. So there's one opportunity there. There's also a website called SB Engaged, where every event that happens on campus, it's listed on the website. And there's also a list of organizations, and you can, search for it by, like, if you're interested in cultural organizations or dancing or whatnot. So all that lives online as well. And then a lot of clubs have their own social media pages, so that's a great way to get into contact with them, like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. But it's pretty accessible, I would say, to get involved.
Okay, Ryan, I want to hear from you on this as well because what shirt are you wearing, first of all?
So I'm wearing my Stony Brook University, hopefully I'm undergraduate student government shirt, USG. So, so just like what Isaiah said is that there, especially like the first couple weeks of every semester, we have something called the involvement fair um, during Wednesdays from 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 2:20, which is called Campus Lifetime. And usually a lot of clubs and organizations, like even Greek Life, as well as like other like organizations as well, they would meet up. If it's on a nice day, it would line up on the academic mall that spans from the Student Activity Center, which we call the SAC, for as an acronym, all the way to the admissions building. And so what USG does is that, I guess I'll talk a little bit about undergraduate student government, is that like what we do is that we fund a quite handful amount of clubs. For example, the ice hockey team, the undergraduate student government funds that club, and we give a pretty hefty budget to them, especially with the performance that they're doing and all the like their equipment, the travel, as well as like even just trying to rent out the rink for the practices and tournaments. And for undergraduate student government, in addition to the student engagement and activities, we do play valuable components of student life. Like for example, some of the notable, I'm not sure if you prospective students have heard of, was such as Regatta, which is a kind of like a boat race in front of Roth Pond in Roth Quad, which is one of the residence hall community at Stony Brook, where there's a pond in the middle, and I believe every like around like the first week of the first Friday of May, of the month of May, we have something called Regatta, where student groups and organizations and even hall councils, for those who are intending to live on campus, they decide to make like a cardboard box with duct tape and just cardboard, and they'll hopefully sail across the finish line on Roth Pond, and hopefully the boat doesn't sink. But nonetheless, it's a big tradition. It's a lot of fun, and that happens in the spring semester. But in the fall semester, we have something called Wolfieland, which is like a carnival full of like themes. Kind of, you can think about it like a miniature adventure park for a day, usually on Saturday, usually somewhere like the end of September around that time. So yeah, we do like undergraduate student government, student engagement activities. We both do play a valuable part in student life. So if you have any more questions related to that, you can feel free to reach out to us, I guess.
Thank you, Ryan. Brianna, we can move on to another question. Do you have anything to add about clubs or things that you've participated in on campus?
Yeah, I could speak to a few things. My goal when I came onto campus was to dive into, especially because a lot of classes I'm taking are STEM-based and not very discussion-oriented. So I decided to join, like our campus NAACP. Some of you might have like, local chapters near you. I'm also the vice president and soon to be president of our Student African American Sisterhood, where I was able to just connect to other students who look and think like me. So that was really supportive and yeah, a great part of my experience at Stony Brook so far.
That's awesome. And of course, you're going to have fun along the way in your undergrad experience. But, to everybody's point here, there are great leadership opportunities within clubs and organizations as well. So getting involved is, really a big first step at Stony Brook. Thank you for sharing all those stories. All right, so I'm going to just field a couple quick, more admissions questions. Someone asked, do I have to declare a major on my college application? You do not. You can apply as a general applicant to Stony Brook. However, there are some majors that are restricted. So a restricted major means that if you don't apply into the major, you're not going to study it at Stony Brook. That includes the College of Engineering and Applied Sciences. Any engineering, computer science, or applied mathematics, you have to indicate that on your application. So if you have an idea of what you want to study, I think it's best to include it on the application. If you're truly undecided, that's perfectly fine as well. Another question, will SBU go test optional? Great question. I think we have to hear more from the College Board and seeing what kind of dates and opportunities there are going to be to take the exam. At the end of the day, we are a part of the State University of New York system, and thus the decision doesn't lie on our shoulders. We have to see what the SUNY Board of Trustees says, and that's going to be a SUNY decision, not a Stony Brook decision. Okay, could you speak a little bit about dorm life? A student asked, how is dorm life? I'll leave that open. I know we got 2 RAs in the building, and I don't know if you are too, Brianna, but whoever would like to field that one.
So I feel like in general, it's what you make of it. So there's different communities you can live in on campus. The housing layouts, you can either live in a corridor style where it's traditional, you have a roommate, you share a bathroom with a hall, and there's like 30 people on your hallway. Or you can live in a suite style where it's kind of like a mini apartment. There's a living room, a bathroom, and you have about 6 roommates. And then for upperclassmen, there are apartment style buildings where you have a living room, kitchen, 2 bathrooms, and between like 4 to 6 roommates. But it's pretty easy to, I would say, to get involved in residence life. We have something called Hall Council. They meet on Tuesdays. The time varies by building, but between like 7 and 10 p.m. Where you meet with people in your building. They might have programs, or there might be an event going on. You can find out what's going on the campus. If you're part of something and you want to make an announcement about like your club or something, you can do that. That's actually a way that I found out about a lot of opportunities and clubs on campus, just by going to Hall Council and meeting other people. But I would say I've had a pretty positive residence life experience at Stony Brook.
Thank you. I'm going to push the pace a little bit because we do have a lot of questions coming in. So another student asked, when did you start your college search process? And do you feel starting earlier was more helpful than starting your senior year? So at this point, I'm just, whoever wants to jump in, feel free to take that one.
I would say it never hurts to start early. If you're interested in studying a certain subject or going into a certain field, go on a college's website, go to that department website and reach out to a professor. There's no harm in doing that, really. Reach out to their academic, like an advisor, see if they have an academic advisor. Reach out to them. They can send you information about their program, things that their students do. I would say definitely, if you can, start early. Networking ahead of time definitely doesn't help, and I think it saves a lot of time in your senior year because you already know what the deal is.
Agreed. Yeah, I think senior year, when you're first starting out, you really want to tee up yourself for success. So getting some of those big questions out of the way, or answering them, what does your ideal college look like, and the location, the major, all of those pieces, things that you're looking for, knowing that going into the application process is going to be critical, because then you can demonstrate, your interest in the application materials. Okay, so have the 3 of you performed any research opportunities at Stony Brook? What are some examples of research? I know that we have the Undergraduate Research and Creative Activities office, which is one of the oldest in American higher education dedicated to undergrad research. So there's a lot of chances to get involved.
Yeah, so I'll answer that one. Research was actually part of the reason why I chose Stony Brook. I knew this was a big research university, and I wanted to be taught by professors who were doing big things in their own fields. So I even remember back my freshman year talking to my professors after class about their research, and they were really passionate about it. And that was excellent. And so I finally switched my major from biology to human evolutionary biology. And to get more familiar with the field itself, I actually got into primate research. And like Chris mentioned before, there's a lot of opportunities to even share your research on campus, and then just receive support from other professors and get their advice on your project. Yeah.
Thank you. Ryan or Isaiah, if you want to chip in a little bit on that idea, you can. If not, we can move on.
So I would, okay. So I would say that for research, I think that especially depending on what type of research, I think coming to a big institution like Stony Brook, you have research that ranges from literally across the whole entire spectrum of majors. And for me, as a biomedical engineering student, what I did was I was able to obtain a research lab position very early on. So it was literally the first day of my classes when I talked to my professor in my introduction to biomedical engineering class, BME 100. And she was talking about her research, which interests me. And afterwards, I decided to approach her after class. And then we talked about her research interests, my career aspirations, my goals, as to like what I'll be interested in helping out with based on my skill set and what things I am able to contribute and learn from the process. And I guess from there, I was able to be able to publish and present at a conference, especially during my freshman year, which is amazing. Especially
Wow.
as what Christopher said with like Eureka. I remember Eureka fully funded my trip, my conference trip to Philadelphia in Drexel, where it was an awesome adventure.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
You didn't waste any time. That's great. Eureka, again, is just the Undergraduate Research and Creative Activities program. So that's excellent to have that kind of firsthand story. Moving on, just a quick note, somebody asked about internships and when you could start taking those. Has anybody had an internship through Stony Brook? Okay. So just that, oh, you have?
If you want me to talk about it, a little bit on it.
Yeah, sure.
So last year, I like besides working as orientation, I was an orientation leader for the past 2 summers. But last summer, what I did was I added another internship, which is called the Undergraduate Geriatric Internship Program, which I was introduced to by the Career Center, especially when my future career plans is to aspire to become a physician. And literally right now, I'm in the process of applying to medical schools for this upcoming cycle. And just from that experience, I think the Career Center was instrumental in helping me obtain a position, having like mock interviews, as well as even doing resume reviews.
Nice. And, building on that idea, they want to know when you can start your internships within a chosen major. So, I think freshman year is a little too early to start internships. I would say you want to do that between sophomore and senior year. If you have a preliminary interest, definitely get into the Career Center freshman year. I know that they have mentorship and, more partnered responsibility or connections there as well. So you could learn about people who have, gone a little bit further in the path that you might be interested in. Okay, great question. How has your studying changed from high school to university?
I'm graduating tomorrow and I still have no idea really how to study. I feel like as you continue to be a student, you pick up certain habits, what works best for you. For me, I like rewriting stuff. So like making study guides usually helps. But I've found that I've needed to adjust my studying habits depending on the classes that I take. So for my more like bio and neuroscience heavy classes, I need to like visually see things. So like watching videos and making label diagrams, those help. And then in other classes that are more discussion or theory based, note taking and making study guides is what usually helps.
Hmm. Yeah, you got to find, I think the undergrad life is definitely, more time outside the classroom you're spending with your material and going over things. So that is, I think, a big shift in, what the expectation is between studying in high school and college. All right. Let's see. Study abroad. Yes. It says, can you talk about study abroad? So yeah, I'll just go over this kind of quickly. With study abroad, Stony Brook facilitates experiences to about 25 countries. The beauty of being a Stony Brook student, though, is that we are part of the State University of New York system. And with that, you have access to all 64 campuses study abroad programs. So there are actually over 1,000 different unique trips that you can take. So ultimately throw a dart at the map and we can drop you off there. Of course, you want to do some planning ahead of time in terms of, what coursework and institutions could you take classes through. That way you're progressing toward your degree. And then figuring out the country and where you want to be in the world and for how long. Some of the experiences are going to be, a week or two, or intersessions, which are summer and winter. And then we have larger opportunities where you're there for a whole semester or possibly even a whole year. I think, maybe sophomore or junior year is probably best to pursue a study abroad as well. That way you kind of bookends your freshman and senior year, you're on campus, you're, entering the community and then graduating from the community as well. Let's see. If you could describe SBU students in 3 words, what would they be?
I'll say one word. I'll say ambitious.
It's definitely a good one. Reading all the applications, they're definitely ambitious.
Hardworking. I think that's goes with a lot of students here.
Definitely.
Hmm. I don't know. That's weird. I would just say unique because I've encountered so many different people here.
Yeah, that unique was really the word that came to mind for me because, reading all the applications and, I don't get to meet all of the students, but just seeing, how dynamic the community is and everybody really does have a unique story. I feel like I'm constantly marveling at, newsletters that are coming in from different parts of the university and different accomplishments and things that people are working on. There's just so many interests represented in our community that, I'm continually marveling at it. So I think unique is a good way to put it. Okay, let's see. What advice would you give for personal statements? So, do you remember what y'all wrote about the for the college essay? And would you go back and change anything about it, or you wish you did something differently? I'm not going to ask Isaiah because he's on his way out right now.
I think, well, to speak to that, I think what we spoke about for the last question about, making sure that you can contribute something to the Stony Brook community and that you are unique. Just try to stress that in your college essays. So, if it is something sport related, find something different about your experience that isn't like the typical student's experience or how you had to overcome, the typical students won't have to overcome the same challenges. So just making yourself stand out and adding more to, what your grades and what your clubs and activities that you're doing in high school show these the admission counselors.
I love that answer. That's a great answer. And that does play into another question that we had. What makes a student stand out in the admissions process? So, to Brianna's point, and, I've been in admissions for about 5 years. The big piece is really to use the application materials to tell your story. I remember when I was applying at first, I really kind of, applying to universities, I thought it was, a lot of work that goes into the application, and it is going to take you time. So it is better to start earlier, work on those pieces over the summer before senior year. That way you can start crafting ideas. But using each piece to tell your story. So, be thoughtful about who you're asking for your letters of recommendation, what your essay topic is going to be about. I mentioned being honest about your conflicts. So these are, really, nuanced things that we want to learn about you. You want to kind of make it a custom, argument or a personal statement about who you are. So, by the time you're applying to universities, you're going to have your GPA and your transcript. All of those things are going to be set in stone. So focus on the pieces that you can really, make about yourself and what kind of narrative you want to tell through the application. Okay, question for Brianna. As a human evolutionary bio major, what were the classes you had to take like? What field of science did they focus mostly on?
Okay, so yeah, I have one of the majors that's a lot smaller at Stony Brook, and it's actually pretty new. I think it's about 6 years old now. It's pretty new, and I like to, when I explain it to people, I like to say it's like a big combination of a bunch of STEM majors. So you get a little bit of chemistry in there, you get a little bit of bio in there, and you also get anthropology. So with the major, you're able to explore different job opportunities and fields, which is why I chose it. And the classes I like also because the professors I find are a little bit more passionate about what they're interested in. Most of the times it's something that's, not common. So, whether it be primate conservation or whether it be primate anatomy, just something you're not used to taking. So that's why I decided to study in the major.
Cool. Thank you, Brianna. So we have a couple questions about admissions and, COVID-19. So I'm just going to take a couple of swings at those. How are admissions for the graduating class of 2021 going to be different because of COVID-19? I think it's a little too early to tell. We haven't made any formal decisions as an institution, or I haven't heard any ideas from SUNY as an umbrella. So we're going to have to follow up on that one. And then secondly, do we foresee more virtual classes in the near future to comply with social distancing? Again, a little too early to tell. Our position as, a university, we are, planning to move forward with a fall semester in a traditional sense. But we have to take it day by day and see how things unfold. We have to see, is it safe for students to return back to campus? What kind of things are going to be put in place in order to ensure campus safety and the safety of the community. So we have to kind of wait and see for now. The formal position for now is that we will have a decision out by the end of June. So please keep an eye on our website. We do have a FAQ section and a COVID response section that you can keep an eye on. Let's see. Okay, Lisa Baker asks, can you talk about different schools within Stony Brook, such as the Honors College and WISE program? We are running a little low on time, but I can say that the honors programs, they do offer unique opportunities at Stony Brook. We mentioned bringing a smaller or a more intimate community into Stony Brook, so that's a great way to kind of make it a little smaller. Honors College students, they have priority housing and registration, as well as all honors programs, and each one has its own unique opportunity. So I definitely recommend checking out the website. There are different research and curriculum involved, as well as mentorship opportunities depending on the exact opportunity. Okay, we're gonna end on, we gotta choose one more question here. Okay, so what were the deciding factors that led you to choose Stony Brook rather than another college? Thank you, Nick, for that question. So I'll hear a little bit from Ryan and Isaiah, and then we'll wrap it up. Thank you.
One of the something that I had to keep in mind was I wanted to go to school in New York State. more generally, I wanted to be on the East Coast because I like going through all 4 seasons. But I wanted to be in New York State, and getting into Stony Brook, I didn't realize how close it was to the city until I got here. It's like, I live in Queens, so it's about an hour and a half away by the Long Island Railroad, and then driving anywhere from 45 minutes to like an hour and a half. So that was a huge factor.
Thank you, Isaiah. Ryan or Brianna, what was really the deciding factors for why you chose Stony Brook, if you have any advice to share?
I think definitely the proximity, because I'm from Staten Island, and as like when I'm choosing about I guess like where to attend college, it's definitely like the proximity, because I want somewhere where I could have a relatively I could have some like I could have some personal freedom from my family, but at the same time be close to them for my social support network, and also because of the academic and like academic scholarships and opportunities, and also because of the University Scholars Program, which really like the honors program really enticed me to Stony Brook to learn more about Stony Brook and all the opportunities it has to offer, not only as a student but also like post-graduation, things like that.
Thank you. All right, Brianna, you're gonna be our anchor. You're gonna give the final piece of advice.
Sure. When I was looking for colleges, I was really thinking about life beyond college, and what university is really going to be there to support, what your life is going to look like after you graduate. And I got that the most from Stony Brook. They were the ones who I feel like would support me if, I want to change my major midway, or if, I needed a job opportunity. And I got that feel the most from the Stony Brook campus when I got to visit, and from just different students that I spoke to. So that's why I ended up choosing Stony Brook.
Thank you. All great reasons. Building on that final point, one of our goals is to really help you find support everywhere. We definitely want to prepare you for life after undergrad. You'll have 18 different advisors in your corner during freshman year. We talked about that transition from high school to college life. So we want to kind of make that as smooth as possible. We talked about orientation leadership and the role of that kind of program to help you, come into the university. So we really want to, help you in that transition as much as possible, and then figuring out what your next destination is after that. After you graduate, you don't truly leave the Stony Brook community, you just change roles. So you become an alumni, and there are various ways to get involved and give back and, be a mentor to a current student, or, work to help future generations. So thank you all for attending. I'm going to drop a quick note in the chat. We have a summer workshop series. We're hosting one event every week. The next one is on Wednesday. Let me double check what the topic is on that. That is the creative approaches to writing the college application essay. So we're going to really try and provide a new special topic every week for you. So continue to check in, register for those in that link that I dropped in the chat. And thank you all for coming out today. Final point, enroll at stonybrook.edu. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all of your questions, but thank you so much for being so engaging and asking great questions. Stay safe, everyone. Have a great night.